And you're just so when I introduce you, you're just a reporter from WBZ
I'm the
TV.
WBZ's Patriots reporter, Levin Reed. WBZ's
Okay.
Patriots reporter, Levin Reed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We're gonna welcome on the show the WBZ Patriots reporter Levin Reed. Levin, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Anytime, anytime. It's good. I'm sure you guys are feeling a little bit warmer than we're feeling here in Minnesota. So if you could breathe some of that warmth through this phone and maybe into the air here in the Great White North, let me know.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God. I mean, it's not much. I mean, it's at least it's 20 here. It's not much warmer here, but it's a little bit warmer.
Uh,
And that's a big
it's
difference.
cold here.
Yeah.
It's really. I was talking to Darren McCourty yesterday, and he was. I said, well, I'm from New York. He's from New Jersey, and I said, "Have you ever been this cold before?" And he flat out, before I finished asking him the question, said, "No, I've
Yeah.
never been this cold." So yeah, it's cold.
Yeah. Different kind of cold too up north.
Yes,
So
very different.
yeah. So, well, I guess we'll get right into it. Have you noticed anything different about the players this time around or the coaches this time around? It seems like, to me at least, they were a little bit more relaxed, a little bit
Yeah,
more kind of, like they're confident in what they're doing. They have a job to do. They're not like taking it for granted, but it almost looked like they've been a little bit more relaxed this time around than before.
I think they're just more relaxed. I agree with you. I'm not sure if they feel confident or anything like that. I think every football team feels confident, or you wouldn't be at this point with the last two teams standing. I just think that guys feel like there's a majority of the guys that have been here before, so they're not kind of stressing out. They understand how the week works and how they have to go about things. It does help also that the time zone last year in Houston is the same time zone they're in now in Minnesota, so they understand what they have to do. They understand the routine, and guys genuinely are enjoying it. There's a couple of guys here who this is their first time, and you get a chance to see some of the guys who've been here more than once to embrace it and say, you know what, you got to go out and have a good time with it. And I'll be honest with you, there's not a lot of nightlife. So most of these guys are staying here in the mall. I mean, the mall is on two sides, two hotels, and everybody's staying here in the mall. So it's guys who get a chance to kind of just hang together and have a good time. There's more camaraderie going on between these guys than maybe a little bit before when they would get out and kind of visit the town. Not a lot of guys are going into Minneapolis right this time of year in February or late January. They're just kind of just sticking together.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Now, is there anyone in particular that's kind of stood out to you where you just kind of said,
Belichick has been extremely relaxed and taking questions and kind of smiling when there was a German reporter asking me questions. He was like the only time a German reporter asked me questions when he's asking about Sebastian Vollmer.
I heard.
Brady couldn't be more relaxed, wearing different hats, talking about drinking tequila. He went on a story today about getting bit by a dog.
Yeah.
We never heard stuff like that before. He's having fun with everything that's going on. I think with everything that's gone on with the team. And again, we're talking about a team that tries to push away distractions. And think we can honestly say since 2014, they've been kind of in distraction for the whole time.
Right.
This was kind of a light year. And also, and you're going to think this is crazy, we're at media night, and the fans are cheering the Patriots, which is never happens. It never ever happens that people cheer the Patriots on the road, but the Eagles did beat the Vikings, so the Vikings are not here. So the fans who came in to see, opening night, Super Bowl opening night, were cheering the Patriots, and it's, for all of us, it was kind of weird. It's like cheering for the knife. You
Right.
don't cheer for the knife, but that's what's going on. So, I mean, Brady has family here in Minnesota because his mother's from Browerville. It's a different dynamic than it's been in the past.
Yeah. No, we'll take it. Certainly, I think the way Philly treated some of the Minnesota fans certainly rubbed them
Yeah.
the wrong way. So we'll take that. Um, I think Belichick, when he walked off the plane in his dad's hat, I was like, "Oh boy!" Like if I'm a Philly fan, I'm worried right now.
We didn't know if it was his dad's hat or he was doing an homage to George Hallis, because if he wins a Super Bowl and gets number 6, he joins George Hallis also. It wasn't until we got a chance to talk to him about it that that we found out it was his father's hat. But I'll tell you what, he enjoys history, and every time. This team, especially with a certain group of players, every time Gronk makes a catch or gets some yards, he's breaking history. Every time Brady gets a completion or a throw, he's breaking history. Every time Belichick is all of a sudden getting wins upon wins, he's breaking history. I mean, just simply alone, the quarterback and the coach have more postseason wins than the quarterback and the coach, Doug Peterson and Nick Foles, have regular season wins. I mean, that's simply alone, that's a big stat to think about. These guys have been doing this for a long time and doing it successfully, and I think they all enjoy their place in history. I think it's hard for them to think about it, but it's hard to get away from it. You know, you're starting to see, you know, there's a lot of guys who have been to the Super Bowl and they remember Tom Brady going to. So they'll give you David Andrews. I was like, did you watch Tom Brady's first Super Bowl? He was like, yeah, I had a babysitter. He had a babysitter. He had a babysitter to watch Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. And now he's snapping the ball to him like every game this season. So this is the history that these guys are starting to be a part of.
That's wild. That's wild. What's your favorite part of the week of Super Bowl week? Because this is what how many is this for you? Is this 3 for you?
This Super Bowls. This is my 8th. This is my 8th. God. I covered a couple of them when I wasn't here. I've covered when I first was here. I covered the first 3, and then I went away and I covered a couple. And I've covered the 3 when I come back. So this is my 8th. Once we get to this part of the week where we're getting close to the game, I enjoy it more. I love the Mondays and the Tuesdays. I loved media day instead of media night. Media night's kind of media day was great. I felt like when they had it on Tuesday afternoons, it was fantastic for everyone. But once they start to get to football, you know, I love the nitty gritty of the stuff, the understanding what's going on. I mean, these guys, as much as they won't tell you about it, as they get to the postseason, the idea is that you want to keep practicing, where, you know, during the regular season, nobody wants to practice. As they get to that postseason and playoffs, the idea is, how can we get to the next practice? How can we get to the next practice? And now it's you empty the tank, and you get a chance to see that. You empty the tank. And the Patriots have done a great job of giving us theater in these Super Bowls and in these big games, and you get a chance to see it. And I mean, Miles Jack, we got a chance to talk to him after the game in the AFC Championship game, and, you know, just sum up the way this team lost, Miles Jack, to the Patriots. And he said, you know, I would feel bad about it, but a lot of teams get Brady'd. We were Brady'd. He turned it into a verb. It's like, we were Brady'd, and there's nothing to, and you know what? A lot of teams get Brady'd, and that's what you get a chance to see as a New England fan, as I've been able to cover the team. Teams feel, you know, you can have more talent on the field, but are you more talented? Do you have more resilient than that guy? And if you don't, there's a good chance that could come back and bite you.
Yeah, he's done it so much. I mean, it almost should be a verb, right?
You've seen it enough for you to make it a verb, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, what do you think should scare people the most about Philadelphia?
Fletcher Cox is probably the best defensive player in this game. Without question, on both sides of the field, Fletcher Cox is the defensive player that they're going to have to worry about a lot. It reminds me of when they played Seattle and they had to put special attention on Michael Bennett. This special Fletcher Cox is better than that. You can't do him with one guy. You can't block him with one guy. You might be able to run at him to tire him out, but that's going to take, you have to stick to the run, because Doug Peterson has the same situation that the Patriots do, where they kind of just rotate linemen and linemen, so guys are notoriously fresh. So Fletcher Cox can probably play this whole game on Sunday and not get tired, because he's been rested pretty much the whole season. He's a beast. He can get up the field. He can hold off 200-300-pound guys with one hand and still get to the quarterback, and he's the guy you have to worry about. On offense, if you were to worry about something, it would have to be Zach Ertz, because he's the one that kind of flips the chains. Like, he would be your Julian Edelman guy, and that's where Chung is going to have to come in. Chung has been excellent, maybe one of the best in the league at stopping tight ends, but he's going to have to stop one of the better tight ends in the league who's strong upper body, and that's where Chung is strong upper body. You're going to have to see how the Pats are going to handle the run-pass option. I am positive. I would bet as much money as I've ever owned and made that the first call Bill Belichick made was to Chip Kelly, who taught the run-pass option to Nick Foles and said, how do I defend it? Because you and I know Chip Kelly didn't leave Philly on good terms, so why not stick it to them? So I'm pretty sure good friends Belichick and Chip Kelly decided that they would probably have a conversation on how to handle Nick Foles in the run-pass option.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I mean, for me, I almost feel like they should up-tempo the Eagles. I mean, because they do rotate so much. If you up-tempo them and don't allow them to substitute, now you can get those guys on the line tired, and now they're not as explosive, you know?
I would agree with you, but you don't want to do it. And I always think you should too, but I don't think they want to do it if they feel they're eating up the clock and they're getting yards. If they feel like the offense is stagnant, then I agree with you. Absolutely. Pick it up, try to get something going. But if you're doing 14 play drives and you're getting 7, and then the Eagles are doing 4 play drives, 5 play drives, and then punting the ball, then go back and do another 14 play drive.
Right.
You know, so and don't give them the ball back and give them a chance. Only reason I say that is because let's go back to last year's game. Atlanta had a chance to slow that game down. They didn't. So at the time when they were kicking the crap out of the Pats, why not slow the game down so that you eat time off the clock so the Pats don't have all this time to come back and beat you? So I understand what you're saying, the up tempo and get them tired. But if you feel you're starting to move the ball and you're doing it at your own pace, then you don't have to do it any faster than what you're doing it at the time.
Right. No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to change what you're doing if it's working, right?
Right.
But,
exactly.
You know, but I do think that might be one of those things. We'll see. But
I'll bet you they come out in the game. I bet you the first thing they do, the first thing you see, the first maybe 5 or 6, 7 plays is they come out the game and they spread them out. And they'll put like James White or Rex Burkhead or Dion Lewis. They'll make sure one of those guys goes to one of the wide receiver spots or one of the slot spots. And I'll bet you that's how they're going to, James, you know, because anytime Schwartz has been any type of coordinator or coach, that's exactly what Bill has done. If you look at this defense, and it'll remind you of the Tampa game they played on Thursday night this year, where the big man in the middle, I can't remember his name, Gerald McCoy is in the middle, and he's able to kind of disrupt stuff. And the Pats decided, you know what, we don't need to run the ball as much as we need to spread them out. They have a big guy on offense, Mike Evans, who will remind you a little bit of Zach Ertz, and they could run the ball with Doug Martin like they can run the ball here with Jay Ajayi like Garrett Blount. And the Pats kept the game the way they wanted to keep the game at 19-14, I think was the final score, but they were able to kind of slow that game down and make sure that, you know, in the end, Jameis Winston had to make a play. You have to make a play. And if you can't make a play because you're not used to the environment of being able to come back, then you just get caught.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, you put the game in Nick Foles' hand at the end of the game, and I don't have confidence that he's going to win. And so,
right, exactly.
You know, it's certainly the right move to do that. So,
yeah.
So we'll see. Now, do you think the Patriots ultimately win, or do you have I mean, obviously,
I think the Pats win the game. I think it'll be close because they don't play Super Bowls and they don't blow anybody out. But I think they win. If you're pushing me for a score, maybe 24-16, maybe 21-16. But I think they win this game. I think Philly, I don't know if they have trouble scoring, but I don't think it's easy for them to score. I don't think it's easy. And I think for all of us watching the game, there's going to be a point where you realize that the Pats are the better team. Yeah. I would be surprised if Philly, I mean, that game they played against Minnesota surprised me so much because Minnesota didn't show up. And it was everything that coach always says, that teams lose games more than they win it. And I just thought Minnesota lost that game from the get-go. They just fumbled the ball and then they threw an interception. You can't lose the turnover battle and expect to win games. I don't expect the Pats to lose the turnover battle. I expect them to, you know, whether it be even or whatever, but I do expect them to win this game.
Right. Yeah, I actually think they might win by double digits, and maybe even not by double digits, but like be up by 14, say late in the fourth quarter, and then Philly scores to cut it to 7, so they only end up winning by 7. But you know, it's essentially like it was a 14-point lead at one point, very late in the game.
I would be surprised if we're all sweating this. I really would. I'd be. I mean, and again, there's been games that the Pats have had that seem kind of close. But you're not sweating. Like, I think Jacksonville could be a better team than Philadelphia. I think Jacksonville defense will poses their linebacker core and how they get side to side. I thought that would be a huge problem, and it was until Jacksonville ran out of plays. Right. You know, they were just like, we only brought 40 players. I don't know what to do now. You know, until Jacksonville ran out of plays. So I think, I mean, even in today's practice today, the Philadelphia, they went through their practice and then they did like a halftime where they did a half hour and then they came out and play practice some more. I mean, you have to get on the page to do that because this team will do that. And it's hard for Doug Peterson to tell me that he's not going to overcoach. And the reason I'm going to say that, because he would be the only coach not to overcoach against Bill Belichick in these big games. So if he's going to tell me that he's going to keep doing what he's doing and not overcoach, then I'll agree with him. But I need to see it because I watched a good coach in Dan Quinn overcoach that game and lose it for himself.
That's true. That's very true. And I think going back to the score part of it, I'm gonna throw some stats at you, Levin, which you probably already know, but I'm throwing them at you anyways. Since Belichick took over in 2000, in the playoffs, the Patriots have scored 26 times. They've scored 20 or more points, and they're 24-2. So their only 2 losses being the 06 AFC Championship game and then the 2010 Jets game where they scored a garbage time touchdown. So basically, if they get 20 or over, they win. When they're under 20 points, they're 2-7, with their only two wins being the Snow Bowl and the Tennessee game. And so to me, that's the threshold.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll give you a good stat for you. The Patriots are 15-0 in the postseason when they face a team that they've never faced in a regular season.
That's true.
So it's always harder for other teams to face them than it is for them to face other teams.
Right. So so it's interesting. So we'll see what happens, but it is it's gonna be a heck of a game. And I think I'm with you. I think they win. And again, we'll see what happens there. But I did want to ask you one other question too. I'm doing a top 10 countdown of I'm a season ticket holder, and so I'm doing a top 10 countdown of like the best games that I've attended. And so I want to ask you the most memorable game you've attended. Now we're going to throw out last year's Super Bowl, and we're going to throw out the Seahawks Super Bowl because those two would probably trump pretty much anything. So other than those two, and it doesn't even have to be a Patriots game, but the most memorable NFL game you've ever attended.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you two games. One, the AFC Championship game wasn't the AFC Championship game, the AFC Divisional game against the Ravens. When the 2013, 2014, 2015 season where they were down 14 twice. Yeah. And they were able to come back and get the victory with, Danny Amendola throwing the ball or Julian Edelman throwing the ball to Danny Amendola, and they were able to kind of get up the field and get that job done back. And two, when I was a young Levin Reed, I got a chance, and I was out and about, and I was in a place that was probably, I shouldn't have been, a gentleman's club. And during the gentleman's club we were there was a Monday Night Football game, and it was Joe Montana was playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. It was 1994. I wasn't at it, but I felt like I was. And they were going up against John Elway and the Broncos, and it was the first time that Marty Schottenheimer had beaten John Elway. And we were in this place, and everything was going on, and the music stopped. And over the loudspeaker, somebody said, I think Joe's going to do it. And everybody stopped and turned to watch.
That's so awesome. That's too funny.
It was like, and Joe brought them back and won in a Chiefs uniform. It was towards the end of his career. And it was nothing was funnier than everybody stopped, music stopped, and they were like, come on, Joe, you can do it. And it was such a funny situation. We're in a gentleman's club, and everybody, like the dollars were folded backwards. Everybody ladies were like, hold on a second, Joe's playing. I gotta, we got some time outside. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Oh my goodness.
I'll always remember that game.
That might be the best story I've heard about a game ever. That's fantastic. I don't know how you never forget that one.
So that's why I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that game.
That's awesome. Yeah, that Ravens game. Funny. That Ravens game is not on my list because I left that game at halftime. I never leave games early, and my wife was sick that day, and I was like, I'm going to the game, like whatever. I have 3 young kids. I had 2 little kids at the time, and I'm like, I'm going to the game, like whatever. And she texted me like a minute before halftime, and she was like, I'm gonna be sick. Like you have to come home and put the kids to bed. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So my mom came and picked me up at halftime. I left at halftime. I was like, what am I going to do? I got to go home. It is what it is.
Exactly.
And I shut my phone off. We taped the game, and I watched it, and I'm like, I missed that freaking game. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Duty calls,
Exactly.
So,
you made the right call. Trust me, you made the right call.
Right. For sure, So that's the way it goes. But anyways, well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much. Anytime. Thank you.
Have fun on Sunday.
Definitely. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.